Hello and welcome back. So we want to add a progress bar here because we're uploading an image at least. That way we can see some progress in case of anything. So if we go to the original template for the nice admin, if you click on components here and go to progress, this is what you get. So I like these progress bars here that have labels. At least we can see the progress over here. So we're going to try and use this one. So I'm just going to get any of these, just inspect the element. I want the whole div, and then I'll just right click, copy, and copy outer HTML so that we copy the div itself as well. So let's try and add it down here. So I'm going to go to App and Views in the Admin and Profile View. Let's go down to the end here. Let's see where we're adding LinkedIn profile data. That's where right there. Before these buttons here, let's add the progress bar. So like this. Righty then. So if I now refresh, I should see the progress bar down here, which is cool. But let's tell it to have some margin bottom as well. So let's put MY. Let's put even 4 here so that it's a little bit bigger. And let's refresh. Okay, so at least there's space between the two. So we will also change the text to say something like saving 50%. Something like this. Maybe this will be much better. Saving 50%. Okay, this is great. Now if I try to put this width at 0%, let me see what happens. Okay, so pretty cool. All right, things are looking up. So this is the progress bar we're going to use. So I'm just going to give it a name that I can easily get from here. So I'll just say JS. I'll use JavaScript because I'll put JS so that I know I'm using this for JavaScript. So I'm going to say JS, what do we call it? Prog. I'll just call it prog. You can call it anything you want. Then also I want to add a style, a class called hide here so that I can hide it when I don't need it. But obviously hide doesn't work because it's not part of Bootstrap. I don't know what the equivalent for Bootstrap is, the class name that hides things, but it does not matter. What we will do is we'll create our own styles. So right at the top here, I will put some style tags like this, and then this is actually a candidate for custom a custom style sheet. I think that's more organized. So what we'll do is we'll go to public and assets, CSS. So in the normal CSS, we don't have anything. So let's create a new file in here, save it, and just call it custom.css, custom, and save so that we can add custom CSS when we want to. So here I'll say .hide and just say display none. That's all we're going to have in that custom CSS file. But we need to add this to the admin header. And right, where is this? It's always a good idea to put your custom CSS as the final thing. So just duplicate this, just make sure there's no other style sheet with the same name. So it's custom.css. This one doesn't go in nice admin, it's just directly in assets, CSS, custom. Okay, so if it has worked, we should see this disappear. And if I refresh, it's gone, so it works. Very nice. Okay, Excuse me. So what we'll do now is create some JavaScript. Okay, so let's go down here where we already have some kind of JavaScript, but let's comment here and say upload functions. Okay, so in order to upload here, we'll create a function, of course, and what I'll call it is we can call it anything. I'll call it save profile. This is the function we will call when we are saving the profile. And then, because we could, on the same page, we could be sending a lot of data for different purposes eventually, because as the website grows, you may not think you need a lot of functions now, but eventually you will as you add functionality to the page. So it's better to be organized from the start. So here we're going to create another function called send data. So this send data, I will add an object here that will contain the data that I want to send. So save profile, and then this will contain data. So we have an empty object for now. I'll leave it at that for now. Then I'm going to add a function, send data. This is the function that will actually send some data. And here I'll call this one obj for object. So whenever you call send data, you must supply the data in form of an object. And in order to read or to send data using Ajax, we're going to create an Ajax object. And we do that by saying something like var, we'll call it Ajax for lack of a better word, and it's called an XML HTTP. These days things have changed. We no longer need to do this. We can just use the fetch function like that, fetch like so. But let's do it the old way for better understanding. So let's do XML HTTP request. Okay, so we need to put new here because this is a class. So we create an HTTP request object. And so what this will do is it's going to simulate the refreshing of a page. Now in our case, we're going to simulate a form being created. So what we would do is, the next thing to do, once you create it like this, all you need to do is say ajax.open and then ajax.send. So you open and then you send it. This is all you need to do in order to make a request to the server. Now in this case, we need to tell it, are we using get or post? Because remember, when you're creating forms, let's say you create a form like this, usually you specify the method, whether you are using get or post. This is exactly what we're doing here. We are sending a form and specifying whether it's a get request or a post request. This will determine where you get your data on the other side, whether you're going to grab it from the post request or from the get request. Now, since we already have a form here that sends a post request, it's better to use post. The next one is the link to the page you want to read. Now, in this case, I want to read exactly the same page. So I'm just going to leave this as an empty string and I'll put true so that it's asynchronous, which means the page does not freeze while I'm doing this. You can put it at false if you want the page to freeze and not allow the user to do anything while this process happens. Could be a good idea sometimes. And then here when we send, we want to send the data that we've been given here. Okay. All right, so what I want to do is, if we send data like this, to receive it on the other side, we're going to use PHP input. However, in this case, because I want to send images, I want it encoded in a normal form, or I want it to end up in the files array, because remember that we already have this in the admin. Let's see, where are we? In the admin section on the profile section here, we already have this system that checks for post request and then checks for the files request here. So the system is already set up. So I want to simulate this as if somebody actually posted something. So here I will be forced to create a form. So I'm going to say var my form is equal to new form data, like this. So this is how you create a virtual form to use to send data. So once I do this, I'm creating a form and then I can add stuff to it. So I'm assuming that this object has information that I need, right? So what I would do is I'm going to loop through the object, and then maybe we can put an array instead. No, objects are better because they have text. So what we will do is we'll loop and say for obj in you know, I forget how to loop through an object here. It's supposed to be for key in object, so obj like that. Okay, I think I've got it right now. So what this loop does is it will loop through this. It assumes this is an object, and then it will loop through and supply each key here. So which means if I want to get an item, I can just say obj and then put the key in there, and that will be the value of the item, and then there will be a key, of course. So what I want to do is append to this form whatever items I added in this object. I want to add them one by one to the form. So here what I would do is to add to a form, you say my form dot append like this, and that's how it works. And when you're appending here, you put two things. You put a key and then a comma and the value that you are sending. So it's as good as creating inputs in a form. So we're adding to them. We can add files, we can add text, doesn't matter. But we assume that the object has everything we need. So what we'll do is we'll put the key here. So I'm just going to use key itself because key here holds every key in the object. But instead of value here, the value will be held in this, like so. Okay, so we've added everything to the form, and then finally we will send the form like that. Okay, simple and straightforward. So we've created a form, we've added everything to the form from in there. The reason I'm doing this here, I don't want to have to do it before I type send. I just want to send an object and then have it add things to the form automatically. So this could be files or text. Now the thing we need in this case is, because we want to see some progress, we're going to listen in for some progress here. So what I'll do is I'm going to say ajax dot upload dot add event listener. So we are adding an event listener to the upload object here, event listener, and we're adding this on the progress event like that, and then we'll add a function like this. So this is how you add an event listener, but we want to add some code, of course, so we'll separate these. So what do we do here? If we put a value here to capture the event, then we will have e.loaded, which will show us how much has been sent, and then there's e.total, which shows us the entire amount of data. And then if we divide those two and then multiply by 100, we will get a percentage of how much has been sent. So if I do it this way, but I want this to calculate first, like that, okay, then it might be a good idea to round it off. So we'll use math.round to round it off in JavaScript. Okay, so here we're creating a percent to know how much has been loaded and divided by the total and multiply by 100, because this will always be less than 1. So when we multiply it by 100, it will give us a percentage. Okay, so that's how you listen in. So what do we do with this percentage? I want it to show on the progress bar. this is what I want it to do. Also, let's add an event listener to tell us when the whole process is done. So I'll say Ajax dot add event listener. This time we're not using the upload. We're adding an event listener to the ready state change. So I'm going to explain this in a minute. So function, and then open and close brackets like that. So we've added an event listener, but to add more code, we do this. And then let's put one if statement and say if Ajax dot status is equal to 4. Actually, we are looking for the ready state. So ready state is equal to 4. And let's do that. Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. Now, the thing is, this Ajax object we've created here has 4 stages. So it's got a 4, they're called ready states. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, up to 4. So 1, I think, I'm not sure here, 1 should be when the object is created. I'm not sure, but you can check this on Google. 2 should be when you're opening it, 3 is when you're sending, and then finally 4 is when the whole process is complete, you've sent, received data back. So this is why we're checking. Every time a ready state changes, we'll get this function will run in here. So when it changes from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, this function will run. But we don't want to do anything until we are on state 4, which means everything is done at that point. We want to respond to that. This is why we've put an if Ajax ready state is equal to 4. Now, sometimes you see others saying, doing this as well. They'll say Ajax dot status is equal to 200, like this. Now, this is a status that is returned by the server. So if I make a request and the server answers, it's going to return a status and say 200. If it says 200, it means I found, the file was found, everything was good, and it returned a result. But this may not always be the case. Sometimes you find that the internet is not working, so you can't connect to the server. So that will return an error. It won't get a 200. It will give you some other code. So it's important to put this separately. So what we'll do is we'll do this. Let me remove that. So on the ready state of 4, let's check though if our status is 200. So in here, it means everything went well at this point. But anything other than 200, it means the server has returned an error. So we would say error or something. So here you can put a message, an error occurred. We can say alert, an error occurred. So what you can do to know the error here is you can check what is inside the Ajax when it's returned, and then you can use some of those things. I think there's error number or error something. We will check those things out a bit later. For now, this is enough. And if everything went well, we are here, and we'll just put an alert as well here to tell us that upload is complete. Like that. Okay, that's all we need for now. So also the progress, we need to see what progress is going on. So what I can do now is just get the document. First of all, I need to, let me grab that progress bar. So I will do so. Where do I do that? Maybe here. We'll edit these things as we go. So that's for the progress bar. I'll say document.query selector and then find that item. So .js prog, that's the one I'm looking for. That's the progress bar thing. Okay, so I want to display it. So I'll remove that class of hide that I added. So I'm going to say .class list. That's how you edit the class list. And then I'll tell it to remove one class from there, which is called hide. Like so. Okay, and then when we are done, everything is good, we're on ready state 4, we can hide it if we want, but I'll leave it on for now so that we can see it. And then at this point, when we are here, we can get the style and change it. So we can say prog.style.width, okay, .width is equal to %. Now that % will be a number, so we need to add, sorry, I'm going into PHP here, a % like this, okay. Also, we need to change its text inside, so we'll say inner HTML, the progress bar, no, actually no, this is not right. This is definitely not right. So the thing we are supposed to move in the progress bar is the div that's inside this one. So since it's the first child here, then we can just say .children0 because that's the first child and it's the only child in here. Then we can edit its style and then also at the same time edit its inner HTML. Okay, so let's do that real quick. So I'm going to come down here. So it's progress, instead of changing the style, it's progress.children, okay, children0. So with children here, you can go through the children of an element. So we know that there's only one, so it must be in location 0 because that's the first element of an array. And then we get the style of that thing, the width, we change the %. We are doing exactly the same thing here as well. So paste, and instead of style, we want to change the inner HTML, which is the text within. So % will be the % there, but we need to add some text saying saving ... and then add the % there. We'll leave a space. Alrighty then. So let's see how well this works. All right. So I'm going to refresh the page and then, oh, we haven't added a trigger yet. So what I'll do is send data. In fact, it's save profile in this case. Then we'll send an empty object. So what I'll do is let's go down to save changes is right here. So on click, so this one right now is a submit button, but I don't want it to submit, so I'll change the type to button. That will prevent it from submitting, and then I'll add an on-click listener so that when I click, it runs this function which we've just created. And then I want a way to actually grab an image that was added. So here we won't put any error checking or anything. I just want to check for, let's see, type is equal to file. That's what I'm looking for here, and this is the one. So load image will load, and this one we can grab it using, how do we grab this one? Okay, so let's give it a class name as well. So I'll say class is equal to JS profile image input. Quite long, but that's what we have. So that's the input. We're going to grab the file from there. So down here to the send data right here, I'm going to say var image is equal to document.query selector, and let's grab that guy like this. Okay, and what we are getting is, let's name it image, and then we'll do in fact, let's not name it image because I don't want it to actually submit and save when it opens that file. So we'll do this, we'll call it pic, but then we'll get image.files 0. Oops, like that, should be a comma. So the thing is, where is this? Let me find it. This file input has a property called files, which is here that we used last time. So we are just grabbing this .files, doing exactly the same thing, but we are doing it now in the other function. So we're just grabbing the first file like last time. So that's why we are doing this, because that's the input, and then we're just doing .files. It's the same as this, but in this case this wouldn't mean anything, so this represents the element itself. Okay, so let's see how well this does. So I'm going to refresh, and then let's try to save. Okay, and as you can see, it worked, and it says upload complete. We've seen that actually move. Now, if you add a much larger file, let's try a file that isn't even a let's see, where are my files? Maybe a movie file instead, so that it takes a bit longer. Okay, there we go. Very good. So let's reset this so that it starts at 0, because it seems we are starting somewhere else. So what I'll do is I'll grab this and put it right under here and paste. In fact, we may do it before we display it. So I'm going to say width will be 0%. So let's put 0 so that it starts from there all the time. So refresh. Let's grab this and let's add a much larger file. I should have a movie in here. Yeah, so let's see how we can save that, and you can see saving. Boom, done. Okay, but let's do something, let's make it more practical, because here is just an example to show you that it actually shows you progress as you're uploading.